And today we are asking what you would do about the benefits bill. The government is expected to spend around £260 billion on benefits this financial year. That covers universal credit, child welfare, housing and disability benefits. Do you think the money is going to the right people, or do you think we need a new way of deciding who gets what? Perhaps you would put limits on benefits for those seeking work. Maybe you would remove the two-child cap on benefits. Or have you come up with something that nobody else has thought of yet? Whatever it is, we'd love to hear your ideas. We're taking your calls on this now. Would you cut benefits if you were Prime Minister? 0207 862 2222 is the number, and we'll speak to you in just a moment. Belinda, I'll come to you first. Would you be cutting benefits or increasing them?
I would be cutting them for some, increasing for others. I was just thinking it would be so much easier to be a Liberal because it's so easy to be generous with other people's money and just hand it all out to feel good about yourself. So here's what I would do. I would go back to the old days of welfare and benefits being the absolute last resort, the safety net that in a high-trust society, the hard-working men and women of this country felt absolutely was necessary to offer the most vulnerable in society, those severely disabled, those with long-term illnesses, those who've just had terrible luck and it's out of their control. But as a last resort, what we have now is an ever-expanding, unsustainable benefit blob that's just sucking dry and squeezing the pips of the poor taxpayers who are taking less and less home to their families every week. So I would say, I'd actually quite like Reform UK's policy on this. They want to, once you've been offered a job twice, the second time you say no, you will have your benefits removed.
Okay.
But at the same time as having the income tax threshold, up to 20,000, so the first 20,000 everyone earns,
so
they get tax-free.
Rewarding workers and decreasing the benefits for job seekers.
Pay. Yes.
Henry.
I would have a royal commission on our benefit system because it is so complicated. It's fiendishly difficult to navigate, both if you're a commentator or if you're a recipient. I'm very concerned about the policy that you're espousing because I think it feels like an American-style policy where you have to be on Skid Row before you get any benefit. Work obviously should pay. I think you should be able to keep more of your in-work benefits than is the case at the moment, which is a bit of a cliff edge.
So increasing the tax threshold doesn't sound too bad
to you?
Well,
the problem is, how are you going to pay for that?
Cut net zero, we've got that one.
No.
Don't you worry about it.
The net zero is tinkering at the edges.
No.
I don't want us to go down the American or the South African route where you have to be absolutely destitute before you get Medicaid or food stamps. But it is too complicated at the moment. But remember, one of the reasons why the benefit bill is increasing is because of mental health, but also because of pensioners. More than 50% of our benefits go to pensioners, and we all want to look after our pensioners. But we're an ageing society, and our population is still increasing. It's about 67 million. So we shouldn't necessarily be going shock horror at the benefits bill. It is a natural rise.
OK, but you would want a reform or a look into it?
Yeah, a proper commission.
All right, you've heard what our panel think. Get your calls in now. Will we speak to 5 News political editor Andy Bell? And Andy, I am delighted to start this little segment with some really lovely personal news because huge congratulations is in order for your daughter who just qualified for the Olympics.
That's right, Storm, it's fantastic. Sorry, we just got some very noisy sirens going by just at that moment, as always happens. You could have predicted that. Yes, my daughter Georgia, last night in Manchester, won the 1500 metres in the UK Championships. She ran a fantastic race, and it means she's booked her place for the Olympics. So we are beyond excited. She's done fantastically well. It's a really strong field. Britain's going to be sending a fantastic team of middle distance athletes, men and women, to the Olympics. I know there were some other sporting events going on yesterday evening, but I tell you, there was some real excitement in Manchester, and everybody look forward to the Olympics in Paris because I think Britain is going to have a fantastic time there.
Well, I tell you, we'll all be looking out for that name, Georgia Bell, when it comes to the athletics. Now, unfortunately, on to politics, and we are discussing benefits today. So could you give us a rundown on what the parties are saying in their manifestos when it comes to benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. In my job, I really can't say, unfortunately, let's turn to politics. So, let's say back to the day job, back to reality. That's absolutely fine. So let's start with the Conservatives. They are looking to cut money out of the benefits bill. They talk about finding £12 billion in savings. That's largely through changing the eligibility criteria, especially for things like disability benefits. Rishi Sunak would say it's helping people back into work. Others would say they are worried about the people who will lose benefits who really shouldn't be losing them. For Labour, they're promising a lot of reviews of things like the universal credit system, but crucially, they are at this stage going to keep the two-child benefit cap. Very controversial for a number of their supporters, but at this stage, Labour say they will keep that benefit cap for two children for families. The Liberal Democrats say they would end the two-child benefit cap and would find more money for the universal credit system, and specifically for people who are carers as well. Reform UK, as we were hearing earlier, certainly looking to cut a lot of money out of the welfare bill. As we heard, if you're a job seeker and you're offered two jobs and you turn two down, they would say you lose your benefits. Also, at the end of 4 months, if you're in that situation, you would lose your benefits if you're a job seeker. And as we've seen kind of consistently when we've done these items with the Greens, they are very much taking the opposite view to a number of the other parties, which is to say they would certainly end the two-child benefit cap, and they would find more money for people on disability benefits and for universal credit.
Beautifully summarised there. Thank you very much, Andy. That's Andy Bell, 5 News political editor. OK, we've heard what the parties will be doing when it comes to benefits. We've heard what the panel would do. It's now over to you. Nathan from Cheshire, you're Prime Minister. How would you handle the benefits?
Hi, Storm. I think I'd increase corporation tax. Automation has attacked white-collar workers, certainly, and I think that would be a fair place to lay the shoulder of responsibility.
OK, so you've told me now where you're getting the money. So are you going to increase spending on benefits then, or is there anywhere where you think we could tighten the purse strings?
I think the two-child cap is a little bit unfair, and I think that needs to be looked at, because people don't necessarily make a financial choice, they make an emotional choice, and more good people in the world, the better, really. It offsets the negativity of bigotry and all the stuff we're getting from the right wing at the moment.
So, Nathan, you would increase corporation tax and use that money to scrap the two-child benefit cap. Thank you very much for your call. Lucy from Sussex, what would you do when it comes to benefits?
Okay, so bear with me on this one. I'd look to reform the universities. I think we have too many. I think if we reform the amount of universities that we had, I think it would free up an awful lot, or reduce the amount, sorry. I think it would free up an awful lot of money. And with that money, I think you could put that into funding into adults in long-term unemployment, which is seeking benefits, who don't have further education, who'd be hesitant to undertake further education due to the cost. And you could do distance learning like the Open University, and that would start to build a skills gap in psychology, nurses, and that would reduce the need for immigration of doctors and nurses, taking them away from countries that actually need them. And then similar to reform, the adults who wouldn't choose to do that, who would, don't want to undertake education, they could do the sort of the two, if you refuse a job, your benefits get cut after two declined offers. And I think the knock-on effect of that is if you reduce the amount of universities, you're not going to have as many foreign students. The foreign students that come over bring over dependents, and that's all cost on the NHS. And obviously, with the money that we're building, we'd be funding more people in the NHS, reducing the pressure on the NHS and freeing up funding and being able to give the extra funding that we put into universities.
You've got lots and lots of ideas floating around. It sounds like you've really thought about this. There's just a few things that I would be concerned about. I mean, foreign students bring in quite a lot of money to this country. They also have to pay, I believe, a certain amount of money every year to be able to access the NHS as well. So they're not just getting that for free. And currently the government is tightening what the dependents are that you can bring here if you are studying. So all those sorts of things tied in together, do you think decreasing the amount of foreign students is still a good idea?
Yeah, I do, because our universities are really propped up with foreign students. They really are, and so the dependents coming over, but a lot of them come over to do masters to just get a ticket into the country.
Well, okay, well that's your theory. The there's another question here on reducing the number of universities. You're going to reduce the number of universities who are producing our nurses, our doctors, things that we really need. How is that going to help us any when you're making our country less educated?
Well, you're not making it less educated, you're just reducing the amount of universities that you have. You're not making our country, because if you've got 50 universities that can have 1,000 students in each one, say, that is not filled up with English people or British people in our country doing those courses.
I've got you. Okay, so no foreign students, all British students, less universities, and that's the way you would do it. Interesting, Lucy. Thank you very much.
I'm kind of intrigued why Lucy has this issue with foreign students. One of the reasons why this country has often welcomed foreign students is it's part of the soft
increasingly
power.
welcomed.
Yeah, absolutely. But they bring in huge amounts of money. It costs, like our students, but home students, £9,250 a year in fees. Foreign students, about 25 grand, plus the living expenses. Plus, they're often bringing in skills. They stay here for a while, then go back to their own country. And they are ambassadors for Britain, which is one of the reasons why they've tried to keep them.
Yeah, that sounds perfect and utopian, as if that's all that happens. That's not. There are huge amounts of scams. There are a lot of universities.
Huge amounts of scams.
People come and use visas.
This is massively,
and they're
it's massively overblown.
Secondly, I would say we have such horrific caps on our own British university students studying medicine. Everyone's like, we don't have enough doctors. It's because we're not even allowed to train our own, because we've given them the majority.
I think doctors is slightly a case in part, but there are caps on the amount of British pupils because the universities need money from the foreign pupils.
That is not right. We should have a good balance, because stripping poorer countries of their health staff is immoral. I agree with the lady.
There's an issue there.
Yeah, saying that we actually need to start training and educating our own.
But there's another thing. I mean, medicine is very, very hard. There's a reason why probably you didn't go to medicine. I didn't go into medicine. It's absolutely hard. Most people cannot be doctors. It is absolutely hard, very, very hard.
Yeah,
that's the real reason.
I certainly didn't get into medicine. I didn't even try. Lucy, thank you very much for calling. You've certainly thought about that in the round, whether it's a policy that would work. I don't know, but I appreciate your call. Lauren from London, what's your view when it comes to benefits, if we could focus on that, and whether you would cut or increase them?
Hello. So I think I think the whole system's broken. For example, I've worked all of my life. I've worked for 20 years. I've paid into the system. I'm a self-employed musician, and I'm currently on maternity allowance, which is only £184 a week. I live in London. That doesn't even cover my rent. So I think that there has to be some sort of means tested that if you're paying into the system, why am I now struggling when I've been working for the last 20 years, paying tax, paying national insurance? And I think most people that I know that are on benefits, they're not on benefits as a choice. They're either ill, mental illness is hugely, if you don't have a job, I think that really contributes to the decline in mental health. But you can't prove that a lot of the time. And I don't think that people choose to be on £83 a week or however much universal credit is. I think there's a real demonising of the benefit system.
I'm hearing, Lauren, I'm hearing that you don't think we're generous enough with our benefit system. And as somebody who is self-employed and on maternity, I appreciate it's a real struggle for you at the moment. So how do you pay for that? Where do you take from?
Well, I think we should look at the MPs and we should look at Parliament itself and the system. I used to work in Parliament years ago, and I saw the amount of expenses that MPs and people in Parliament put through. It's ridiculous that some of them have second homes. I think we should be looking more closely at these people who are earning a lot of money rather than demonising the working class.
I wonder, Lauren, I appreciate maybe we do need to delve down and do a bit more investigation on what they're actually spending their money on. I just don't know whether the maths add up, that actually, even if we really curtailed their expenses, whether that would come anywhere close to making sure that you get a maternity that doesn't leave you stressed paying your rent. But thank you very much for your call. Kirsty from South Lincolnshire, what would you spend more on or spend less on when it comes to benefits?
Hi, Storm. I don't really know the answer, to be absolutely honest, as I said to your producer. But what I do find as a disabled person with an acquired disability, I broke my back when I was 17 in full-time education and ended up paralysed. 28 years later, I'm finding that people that genuinely need benefits are jumping through hoops, like really struggling. I find myself quite lucky because I have a good, strong family support network, but I was in full-time education when I had my accident. I couldn't go back to my local sixth form because they wouldn't make the changes, that the local authority wouldn't pay £5,000 to make the adaptations. I have worked all my life. I have further gone to university. I've struggled at every point, and I retrained in COVID to become a teacher. And now, in the 4 years I've been teaching, I've found nothing but discrimination, problems left, right and centre, and I feel like I have so much to give, and I now find myself unemployed, and I have to have a student loan to pay off my teaching degree, and I just feel completely sold out by this government. So,
I'm so sorry that you must be so disappointed with the way things have.
That is such a powerful
panned
call
out.
for somebody who actually wants to be
And is
engaged
doing
and
everything
involved.
right.
And has done the right things.
But I do worry that those who desperately need it and who deserve it and that taxpayers want to give to don't get enough. And it's the people who just do phone calls and get sick notes and sick benefits that don't have to jump through any hoops to get benefits.
So how do we differentiate, Kirsty, then? I hear your struggles. I appreciate that. How do we sort out the benefits system so that somebody like yourself gets what you need to be able to get on in life and contribute the way you want to society?
I don't know. I'm not so sure I agree with the university thing, but I'm kind of leaning towards your last caller that talked about looking at, closer to home with MPs and claiming expenses and things like that. Honestly, truthfully, it's such a huge issue. I really don't know the answer because I feel like whatever way we do it, somebody's going to be penalised somewhere. And currently, I think you had on, maybe not your show, Storm, but I think it was Jeremy Vine had a disabled person on panel saying she does her PIP every year. It's not easy. I'm on universal credit right now, and I don't understand it all. It's all new to me. Somebody with an education, a degree, postgraduate degree in teaching, but still, I really don't know the answer. But I do know that people that genuinely, struggle do need to be, everything now is jumping through hoops. You have to get this access card now to get, tickets to theatre or, cinema, and you have to pay £15 and you have to, explain in every detail why you need to get to the toilet, why you can't stand in a queue for very long. I mean, as I say, I consider myself quite lucky with the network I've got, and I'm quite independent as a wheelchair user, but some are really, really struggling, including the carers that was mentioned before. But I don't know the answer. I don't know.
Kirsty, thank you very much for calling and sharing your story anyway. As Henry said, a very powerful one. Lots of calls coming in, so we're actually going to take more calls after the break. If you were Prime Minister, how would you tackle the benefits bill? 0207 862 2222 is the number. We'll see you after this. OK, we're getting so many calls now on our topic about benefits that we're going to keep speaking about it some more. We are asking, if you were Prime Minister, how would you tackle the benefits bill? So we'll return to those phone lines. Rob from Cumbria, you're up next. You've got the keys to number 10 and you now need to solve the benefits bill, whether to bring it down or increase it. And if you're going to increase it, where are you getting that money from?
Well, you could either do either or. But if I was the Prime Minister, the first thing I would look at is the benefits bill, subsidising very profitable corporations, businesses, basically the taxpayer is subsidising companies' wage bills. If you work full-time, the company should pay your wage enough for you to live on. You shouldn't be paid not enough to live on, and then the government top it up. So that's a bit of a stickler for me. I don't think any company.
Okay, but a big part of our economy relies upon small to medium businesses, and if you do that, I totally accept your point. If you work full time, you should earn enough to be able to provide a roof over your head and food on the table. For some reason, that's not the way our economy seems to be set up, and I just wonder whether if you do that and make these businesses pay a living wage rather than a minimum wage, whether they're actually going to go bust, and then we're going to see a demise of all these small businesses, decrease in the number of employment, and the economy goes right down the toilet.
Well, I had more in mind the big multinational corporations.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. But
Fine.
I do think you shouldn't be allowed to live on benefits indefinitely. There should be a time scale where you have to. But you should also, if you're on benefits, who would want to come off benefits and take a chance on a 0-hour contract job where there's no job security, there's no relying. You could get a text in the middle of the night or something saying you're not needed that day. So who in the right mind would want to leave the benefits, even though the benefits are shockingly low in the UK? Okay. So who would like to take a insecure job?
I hear you, Rob. You would want to tackle the fact that we've got working people on benefits. Thank you for your call. Ron from Surrey, what area of the benefit system would you like to tackle first?
Hello, is that me?
It is you, Ron.
Oh, right. First of all, two things. One, I'd make the living wage the tax threshold. And the second thing I'd do is I'd tax benefits. They are income, and it doesn't matter what job you do, your income is taxed. And so often we hear people don't work because they're better off on benefits. And the reason they're better off on benefits...
Hold on, is that a little bit like parents giving children pocket money and then taxing them on it? If you're having to help somebody pay their bills because they aren't earning enough in order to be able to do that, even if they're working full time, what's the point in taking some of that money back? Just pay them less.
If people are working on the living wage and they're not being taxed, they ought to be able to afford the bills. I'm talking about people who are on benefits, who are better off on benefits than working. Is there 1 million people unemployed now? Or is it 1 million jobs that are vacant?
Okay, but Ron, there are people on benefits that can't work, for example. And you wouldn't tax them, would you?
You're talking about people that are on benefits because they're too ill to work.
They're too ill to work, maybe there's childcare issues, maybe they're a carer for somebody else. There's lots of reasons why somebody might be economically inactive on paper, but in actual fact it is contributing quite a lot to society and claiming benefits because they're unable to get a conventional job, and those benefits are paying for... You would still tax them?
The benefits.
Okay.
Ron seems to be on the...
I'd still tax the benefits.
Ron, you're giving the impression that people are living the life of Riley on benefits. They're not. You know, if you're a job seeker's allowance and you're age 25 or over, you're on £90.50 a week. And then if you're single and 25 years old or over, it's less than £400 a month. These are not life-changing amounts of money. It's subsistence, you know. I think you were saying earlier that you would prefer to have a system where people got just enough to get by. Well, I think that's what we're on at the moment. It's not a glorious existence for people on benefit.
I also can't work out the circle. Why would you give someone money and then take it back? If you're the government, you're paying benefits and then taking it back. But all the same. Well, I suppose they do it with pensions, don't they? Private pensions. Ron, thank you very much for your call. Pia from Fife, what's your view on this, on benefits? How would you tackle the benefit system?
Well, can I say, first of all, that there's a misnomer that there's a massive amount of fraud going on with the benefit system. The majority of the benefit system is pensions.
Well, yeah, about 52% of the benefit system, although those that are getting pensions will tell you they're not a benefit. So you've got benefits and pensions, and that all comes under the same bracket. But I'm glad you brought that up, Pia. Okay, how would you tackle benefits?
But the fraudulent part is a tiny amount. And people seem to focus on it unnecessarily. Okay. And we are judged as a society, are we not, by looking after the weakest in society.
The most vulnerable.
Yeah. And this whole lark about getting people after 2 job offers to force them into a job they don't want to do. Yeah. Would you like your granny to be looked after someone who doesn't want to do the job?
I think the point of that, though, is that if you have been offered a job and you are fit to work and you choose not to take the job, and you get offered another job and you choose not to take it, you actually are choosing to go on to benefits rather than work. And is that fair on the hardworking men and women of this country who are taking less home to their families to then financially support you choosing not to work. I don't think that's fair. You have to I treat this like a grown-up problem and say, actually, you can't.
Wait, I've only got 30 seconds. Let Pia have the final word on this one. What do you think to what Belinda's just said?
Yeah, but Belinda, would you rather have someone who's been forced into the position, who doesn't want a care job, rather than someone who wants to do the job?
Yeah, I absolutely hear your point. You're actually taking it from the employer's perspective as well. Would you want them working for you? Thank you very much for your call. Thank you to Henry and Belinda for being such a wonderful panel.